Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Passive Tree Podcast, a podcast dedicated talking about life, Path of Exile 2, and everything in between. Tonight, on episode 8, we are joined by a Diablo 2 guru and off-meta build enjoyer. Tonight, we have off-meta Michael. Welcome on, and how the heck are you, man?
Doing pretty good, man. How about you? That was a cool premiere that you had. I watched it and I thought it was pretty excellent.
Thank you, dude. Yeah, I've been wanting to make that video ever since I got my hands on Path of Exile 2. I'm sure that you can sort of relate where like as soon as I got into the game, I started noticing all of these little similarities, these little familiar notes to the game that sort
Uh,
of started adding up in my mind and I was like, man, like there's just such a like distinct inspiration from Diablo 2 in Path of Exile 2. And so I reached
yeah.
out to you because I know that you sort of share a similar sort of perspective on that. So, super happy to have
Yeah.
you here tonight, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. So I totally agree. I mean, the whole reason I'm playing Path of Exile 2 is because of that exact idea, that feeling. And I wasn't interested in Path of Exile 1 really. Kind of looked at it a few times. I think I played it. I have a memory of playing it, but I didn't get very far. I didn't love Diablo 3. I played it when it launched for a little bit, but it just wasn't my thing. I didn't really enjoy the fact that Diablo 3 kind of took their graphical inspiration from Warcraft, you know? I did like Warcraft games. I played them up to Warcraft 3, but I remember distinctly thinking when it came out like, "Oh, why aren't they following the Diablo 2 kind of style?" You know? So, anyway, so like I when Path of Exile 2 came out, I thought, wow, dude, this this is like clearly inspired by Diablo 2, and I think your video demonstrated that you just premiered. But then also I also did a video, like I did multiple videos about this. But I have a video on my channel too called The Singularity, which is so poorly named now that I think about it because I don't think anyone knew what the hell I was talking about when I called it that. But yeah, I said that because during a podcast with Talkative Tri, the first one that I did, I was jokingly calling it a singularity, where I was like, dude, like PoE2 is a singularity, and so I thought it was kind of funny to call it that, but really I probably should have called it something more like what your video is called, like directly comparing D2 to PoE2. So yeah, when I watched your video, I was like, yeah, this reminds me a lot of my video, The Singularity.
Absolutely. And I ended up watching, I remember messaging you on Discord saying, I watched your video as I was sort of, after, I'm not sure what your process is for like video creation. For me, it's I do the script, I record all of the audio, and then after I do all the audio, I put it all into Premiere, listen to it, and then I sort of get these ideas for like what I want to start like overlaying visually on top of the
Mhm.
audio. And so while I was looking for visuals to sort of overlay on top of the audio, just looking at like Diablo 2 stuff, Path of Exile 2 interviews, I came across your video and I watched it and I was like, holy crap, like this guy literally has like so many of the same like points that I'm making in terms of like,
Yeah.
the interface, the combat and all that kind of stuff. So I thought what more
Yeah.
of a perfect guest to have. And it sounds like we share a very similar love and passion for Diablo 2 as well. So yeah, man, it was super cool to watch that video and sort of reach out to you and have you on the podcast, man.
Yeah. So, and I think it is kind of like both, right? It's innovation and imitation. I don't think there's any denying that really. That some of the things that I love about Path of Exile 2 that I was wishing Diablo 2 Resurrected would implement was just the quality of life stuff, Like the fact that you can just buy as many stash tabs as you want in PoE 2, you know? I know that's from Path of Exile 1 as well, but I mean, just the fact that you can just buy all the stash tabs and just like have a tab for like uniques and all that stuff. These are things that people were like artificially doing in Diablo 2. So, they would have like an Excel spreadsheet or like a third-party website to keep track of all the uniques they found so they could do their holy grail, they called it, where you find every unique in the game. What I did, because I made all my builds on my channel online. I never did a hero editor build on my channel. And people would accuse me of using Hero Editor on some of my builds because I had ridiculous gear sometimes. And it was like, no, dude, this is all online, or like this is even on ladder. Like I made this one this season, stuff like that. And the way I got around all of that online is every time Diablo 2 went on sale, I would buy it and I would just have another account, and it was just mules, you
Oh
know?
my God.
And so I had like 7 freaking accounts of Diablo 2 when I was hardcore into it and running builds all the time and making videos for it. And I had a laptop set up here on the side with my gaming PC, and I was literally like exchanging items, and it was a nightmare to like I'd have a build idea and I'd be like, dude, I know I have the exact rare boots that I need for this, and it's like on a mule somewhere, you know and like I had mules that were named like boots and like belts, like I'd name a character that, and they would just, that's all they had on them was just that in their inventory. And so like when you were mentioning about your video creation, about like, oh, you write the script, I actually am a lot more like controlled chaos with my videos. I don't write anything down. um so like I actually will just start like, so my video essay style video, I never wrote anything down for that. I would just like start talking. Like I had the idea in my head of what the thesis, the premise is, like all that, the conclusion. And I would just start talking at pieces, and I would record it kind of as if it were scripted, and then I would just like edit together stuff. And then I would kind of on the fly, if I needed like another line of dialogue or a sentence or a paragraph, I would just record a new piece and then just like slot it in.
Ah, I see. It's so interesting talking to different creators about what their process is. Well, I have to say right off the top, you are a very well-spoken person, and you can articulate very well sort of what you're talking about, especially knowing now that a lot of the stuff that you've done isn't necessarily all scripted, or you sort of interjected sort of pieces of dialogue to support what you've talked about just sort of on the fly. So that's a super good
Yeah.
skill to have.
It's all right. The only thing is that when I am speaking off the cuff, I think I say like too much and it drives me crazy. But I was born, in the late 80s. And so I lived through the 90s. So you have to cut me some slack. you
I mean,
know?
I don't know if you can see this, but I have this taped above
So
my
you're, I
desk.
can't, I can't actually see it, dude. It still hasn't popped up. It says that you're minimized.
Okay, no worries. So I'm holding up a piece of paper right now
Yeah.
that says,
Mhm.
"Be mindful of ums, you knows, likes, you're doing great." Because I
Yeah.
also do that all the time. And I've only started realizing that after I started listening to myself talk a lot, especially with the
Yeah.
podcast. I'll
Yeah.
re-listen to some of the episodes and say, "Wow, I need to focus on just taking a beat, taking a breath, and not filling those like empty silences with ums, you likes, you knows, and stuff like
Yes.
that." You know?
Yeah, I say that. I say, and I say, do you know what I mean? And I say like, and I say, and I say, oh, I can't help it. It's hard. It's hard to stop doing that, but it is something I'm totally aware of. So if anyone ever thought that and said he says that too much, I'm aware. I'm sorry. See, I just did it. I just did it. But anyway, yeah, man, your video. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about D2. So I wanted to say something that you mentioned in your video. You said, well, first of all, the Zoolander reference was hilarious. But then
Nice.
also, you said that Diablo 2 has a lot more class identity, right? And that's totally right. Obviously, you pick a class, you get 3 skill trees to choose from. And that's something that actually makes the off meta so noticeable in Diablo 2. And
Mm,
my brain, whatever, for whatever reason, just had a really easy time coming up with off meta stuff in Diablo 2, because it was like, if you made, so my first video for Diablo 2 builds was a lightning strafe Amazon. So using strafe, the bow ability that like rapid fire, machine
yep.
guns, arrows. And if you use that ability, it's a physical damage ability. And on that same tree, there is cold damage arrows, fire damage arrows, right? And if you go to the javelins and the spears, you have poison damage, lightning damage. There is no lightning arrow in Diablo 2. So my first video ever was lightning Strafe Amazon, where I used lots of gear to bolster the lightning damage on a rune word that nobody uses. I think it was called Wrath.
I watched this
And
video. It was
you
excellent.
watched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that was my first one, and so it's a little, it's a little amateur in terms of like my voice presence and stuff like that. But the build is cool, and I used all these lightning charms and charms in Diablo 2, like you fill your inventory with them, and that's kind of almost like a pseudo passive tree in a way,
Hmm.
because you can emphasize or get something you can't normally get with those charms, right? So you can fill your inventory with all these charms, and then you can put jewels and stuff like in your gear, and then you can basically use strafe as a lightning skill, doing lightning damage. And I remember I made that, and the reason I made it was because I was doing a trade with somebody, and this dude was like looking at my character, essentially going, "What build are you playing?" Because my character was different. She had like blue armor and like this skull helmet and a red bow, and it
This
just
was the
didn't
build
look.
that had the 4 rainbow facet socketed body
Yes.
armor, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
the
yes,
the
yes, yes.
rainbow facet body armors are a staple of off meta. and
Mhm.
and meta, but you kind of need them in the off meta to really boost up the damage to be usable in hell difficulty in level 85 plus zones. So yeah, you kind of need the fat, like I actually have online, I have faceted body armors for every element.
Hmm.
And they're in, what's so cool about that too, which brings me a little bit off topic, but to the itemization of D2,
Mhm.
is they're all blue armors. So they're all magic armors, right?
Right.
And that's so cool about Diablo 2, is that every item base has a role in the game, even best in slot for end game. So this is something that Path of Exile 2 doesn't necessarily have. Um, it does, but in a different way. So in Path of Exile 2, white bases could become, they could be chanced as a unique, or they could be a base so you could, use a transmute or an augment or maybe an essence to get the ball rolling on something. Whereas in Diablo 2, a white base is something for a rune word, but then a magic base, and this is the big difference, a really good magic item in Diablo 2 can actually roll higher on certain modifiers than a rare. So like imagine you have like one of the most well-known ones is a pair of gloves. They're called 320s. And it's basically like a 3 to javelin and spear skills, 20% increase attack speed pair of gloves. And on a rare pair of gloves, you can only get a maximum of 2 to javelin and spear skills. So Diablo 2 had this cool idea where, what if blue items, even though they can only have 2 mods, could potentially roll higher mods than the rares, still making them valuable. And so I actually did use some of that too to make certain off meta builds. Like I have a Strider Paladin, for example, where he uses a bow on swap and then a two-handed sword as his main weapon. And the sword is an ethereal magic item, which took me like
Mm.
2 years to find. And it's just as it's just as strong. It's got a Zod rune in it, so it's indestructible. And it's just as strong as like the powerful rune words you can make, but it's a blue item. So that's like my personal, Excalibur in Diablo 2.
Yeah, I mean, I talking just generally about itemization, I don't know if any game, any ARPG has really got it to the point where, aside from Diablo 2, where almost every single base or rarity variant of any piece of gear is usable, aside from like the gray, obviously, like the garbage grays. Like Diablo 2
Mhm.
had that really interesting sort of design decision to make those, as you mentioned, magic modifiers more powerful, so that in certain very specific situations where, as you said, it would take you sometimes years to find these items, that they could be replacing your like really good gloves or like really good boots or something like that. Like it was just genius. And it's crazy to think that like since then we haven't really seen itemization, I guess, get to that level of depth. I know Path of
Yeah.
Exile 2 is getting close to that, but I don't know if I would say right now that the itemization in Path of Exile 2 is better than Diablo 2. What is your stance on that?
Um, yeah, it's hard to say because we're missing so much content, right? But is it better? I'll just say personally, in Diablo 2, I've had way more moments of like, oh, dude, right? That reaction,
Hmm.
where certain runes drop or certain uniques drop that roll perfect. And like I said, who gets excited about a blue item in Path of Exile 2? I mean, maybe a little if you're really forward thinking and you see a body armor that kind of is like, oh, flat 96, energy shield. But that's not that exciting still because you're just like, well, maybe I'll throw it in the recombinator later, right? That's kind of how you think about those things. I think in Path of Exile 2, I chanced a Stellar Amulet last league and got an Astramentus, and it was like
Nice.
the fifth or sixth time I tried it.
That's
And
crazy, bro.
yeah. So I've seen people do videos where they just go ching, 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 and it's just nothing, but they get nothing, right? And they're just
Yeah.
doing this over and over again. Inventory's full of stellar amulets. And I didn't even know at the time that it was like that crazy. So I just was like, oh, I guess I'll try to get that one thing, Astramentus. And then I was like, chink, oh cool, I got it, And which is so funny because like people are trying so hard to get it. So like I remember I got it though, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like this is like a really rare item, I think, And then I looked up, and it was like worth like 350 divine, and I was like, "Okay." And so that felt pretty good to find something like that. But I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like I guess like some really high damage rare quarterstaves were pretty cool. I did find some like I did find like a really nice tri-res belt in a ritual this season and stuff. But it's just like you're not, I guess part of it is the familiarity. Like you said in your video that some of the uniques in Diablo 2 have like a mythic quality to them. And I totally agree with that. Like people have built up this, what do you call it? It's almost like a zeitgeist or like a public consciousness about Diablo 2 where you just like certain uniques have their own nicknames and stuff, right? And so people will find those and get excited about them because it's so build enabling. And that's something that I really appreciate about Diablo 2 is when you find a rune that you can use to build up to a rune word, sometimes that's the one item you need that'll make the build come online or allow you to even have that build. Like there's a unique helmet for barbarian only that allows you to shapeshift to werewolf. It's called Wolf Howl, I'm pretty sure. And that kind of stuff is like really cool because there is no other way to be a werewolf with any other class except for druid unless you're a barbarian and you have that unique helmet. So Diablo 2 actually, what's so cool is a lot of items in Diablo 2 are not even the best items in the game in terms of DPS or something, but sometimes it's the only way to make that build. And it seems like the developers of Diablo 2 through the years, as they were adding all these things, they were just like all about the build craft. They were so much like, hey, like we want people to seek out like off meta, And in PoE 2, I remember leading up to PoE 2's launch, there were all these press conference things, or not conference, but press release things and interviews. And there was one of the developers, Octavian, I think his name is. He said something like, "You can do any off meta wacky thing you want to do in PoE 2. Like you can path anywhere." And so I was just like so excited. And I'm thinking, I'm finding that there's a lot to do in PoE 2. It's a great game for building things, but it's a little stifling right now. I think in early access, I think they could open things up a lot more. I feel like in Diablo 2, I wasn't so um locked into stat points and stuff, right? Um, do you agree with that? Like Diablo 2, there was rarely an instance where you were like, oh man, I can't once I equip this, now I gotta fix all my gear. you
Well,
know?
I feel like with Diablo 2, I'm speaking from somebody who's been playing it since I was a little kid. And so as you
Yeah.
play over, that amount of time, decades, you sort of learn what attributes you need to wear like a monarch shield or like something like that, where like so you're not like, the first time you play through the
156
game,
strength.
156 strength, baby. So yeah,
Yep.
like you learn these types of things over time, and then when you're building characters and stuff like that, you're going into it sort of knowing like if I'm going to use this particular monarch shield, I need to make sure that my sorceress has 156 strength. But
Yeah.
the first time that we played these games, we had no idea. We were throwing all of our attribute points into dexterity, strength,
Yeah.
energy, stuff like that. We didn't know what we were doing. So I think it really
Right.
comes down to like over time we're sort of learning what the best way to appropriately
Yeah.
like get these attributes in, right?
Yeah, like D2 is solved essentially.
Hmm.
Except in Diablo 2 Resurrected, they did shift things and change things up. And there were some things that worked differently in Diablo 2 Resurrected, which were for the better, I think. So there was a little bit of relearning for that iteration of the game, that remaster of the game. But for the most part, like you said, yeah, we kind of knew what we were doing. But I'll be honest, like I played Diablo 2 when it first launched. I remember being like in my parents' like computer room playing that game. The only reason I knew about it was because I had a buddy who showed me Diablo 1 when we were really young. But I remember I was like absolutely enthralled with it. And I said this is something from my video actually that I mentioned, and I was speculating about like why the isometric ARPG is so enticing to people. In my sense was that it was how we used to play as children. Like if you're playing a tabletop game or like action figures or something, you kind of are looking at it isometrically, right at that viewpoint, and it reminds you of your childhood, and it's nostalgic to play Diablo. That's kind of what I thought. It was almost like the game allowed you to use your imagination again, but also interact with a lot more, visual stuff that's there already. And I like what you said in your video where you said that the more primitive graphics of D2 compared to PoE2, which is like high fidelity now, D2 like had your imagination kind of fill in the gaps, right? And I think that's right. And I think that's why, even as adults, we're still into these kind of things is because it's so nostalgic, right? Um, and I also think that's why people get so mad. I think that's why people get so upset um, with like the rage people that rage on like Jonathan Rogers or they get mad at Talkative Tri or something for being happy. I think that if they find Path of Exile 2 isn't fulfilling for them in some way, it's almost like you just crapped all over their childhood, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and and I the only way I can relate to that is when Disney Star Wars came out. I don't know if you like those or not, but
Yeah.
I was not a fan of like The Last Jedi, for example. I didn't
Hmm.
like the direction of, Luke Skywalker and stuff. And I remember sitting in the theater watching the movie, like just kind of being confused and a little angry and a little upset. And pretty much, you know, like the director, Ryan Johnson, he wrote The Last Jedi and directed it. I remember thinking, like, dude, I really hate that guy, for writing this way. It sucks. Like, I didn't like it, and I think it's because part of it is nostalgia. I had built up these characters and lived with them my whole life, and then someone came along and changed the formula, and it was upsetting. It was disrupting. So I think that's another reason maybe why people are so heated about PoE 2 as well. Is there's an element of nostalgia that's pretty strong.
I think that particular sentiment that you just talked about is very applicable to Blizzard titles. I think that I would actually view the way you described your particular view on Disney Star Wars, the way I view, and I think a lot of people view Diablo 3,
Mm.
where it kind of felt a bit Disney. Like, I in the video you saw the clip of
Yeah.
the unicorn land, and I'm like, when I was playing that, I was like, what? How did they replace the cow level with this? Like, this is like
Right.
sacrilegious. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I think that, when people take things in new directions, people who enjoyed the previous thing for X, Y, and Z, oftentimes are gonna feel certain negative feelings towards them unless they really echo what they enjoyed in the previous things that they're remaking or they're redoing. So, no, I totally agree that
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely understand the frustration, but I would not really necessarily associate like Path of Exile 2 with like a departure from something that was really good. Or I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here, but do you know what I'm getting
Yeah,
at?
I mean, I get what you're saying because I kind of agree with, your sense about it, which is that PoE 2 is really just carrying the torch and then
Yeah,
innovating on Diablo
yeah,
2. So to me, it was just like seems like the natural progression of that, right? Um,
yes.
so yeah, I think it's pretty dang good. A lot of the decisions they make, it seems like they usually end up in the right spots so far. Um, so we'll see.
100%.
A lot of the questions that Jonathan just answered recently uh, told me a lot, and a lot of the questions too I submitted to Talkative Tri and he used them. He asked a lot of my questions actually, which was really cool for me. I don't know. Sorry anybody else that didn't like those questions, but like he did ask a lot of questions from me. And that was very helpful, I thought, for how they were thinking about build variety and stuff like that. So that's what I want really though, is I think I just want to be able to make a lot of these archetypes work, like if I want to make a super hulking, tanky, slow character, they got to figure that out and fix armor and stuff, And I think they're going to though,
Yeah.
because Jonathan said like he's like I'm going to talk to Mark about it for like several days, but I don't have an answer yet. It's like okay, like they're going to work on it. It's going to work. It's going to be cool. So I'm happy with that. I wish we had the access that we have with GGG, like with Blizzard. When Diablo 2 Resurrected was coming out, there was some of that. Like they were listening to people, they were patching things. It was like, oh man, like I had like an entire video planned way back that I never ended up doing because it was just pointless because they weren't Diablo 2 was in maintenance mode, but it was basically like the future of Diablo 2 Resurrected, how I like if I were the director of that game, like how would I take it into the future? And it's basically like a lot of the stuff that PoE does. It's like all the quality of life with the stash tabs, like certain league mechanic stuff. Like this is before I ever played Path of Exile. I had no idea those kind of things were in Path of Exile, actually, because I never played it really, you know? So
Hmm.
so yeah, so like when I was like, man, I wish like Diablo 2 had like a base that you could build an outfit and you could have like each mercenary from every act there and you could outfit them and then pick which one you want to take with you like on a quest and then we should fill out act 4 and then we should have act 6 as a new thing and we should put a new character and like and I was like I had this whole thing. It was like this huge, this is one of the things where I actually wrote stuff down. It was like a huge document where I was like gonna talk about how we could expand Diablo 2 and take it into the future. And then I was just like, okay, like what's the point? They're not going to go do anything with this. So anyway, Path of Exile 2 though has a lot of those things that I was looking for. Um, and I'm just really enjoying it right now. A lot more than I initially was. Like the campaign and everything. When I first played it, I was just bonkers for it, dude. I thought it was so good. I loved that first act and getting through it and having to kind of grind through it. It felt a little slower. I was all for it. And then Endgame just slapped me like crazy when I first got there. And I was really confused. I was like, man, this is brutal, And I'm glad the changes they made so far, though. I'm enjoying a lot more now. The end game, if you get those omens too that reduce the penalty of experience when you die by 75%, it feels pretty good when you have one of those clicked in your inventory all the time. So highly recommend those if you're not using those.
Well, I try not to die because I play on hardcore, so
Oh
I
shit!
actually
Yeah, I
use
won't
the
do anything then.
omen. I use the omen of resurgence, which essentially is the one where if you go below 35%, it like replenishes your life, and that has
Gotcha.
actually saved me quite a few times. which has been super
Mhm.
nice. I wanted to touch upon one more thing about Diablo 2 Resurrected. So,
Yeah.
when that game was announced, I'm sure yourself and myself and many other Diablo 2 fans were incredibly excited. I saw the revamped graphics. It looked incredible. The lighting, everything was just, it looked amazing, right? But, there was a part of me that was probably, similar to yourself where you're thinking, are they going to add anything to this? Are they going to modernize the game in a little bit of a way? And there was quite a debate online about, the preserving the essence and the core of the original game and leaving it basically as is and just remastering that with better graphics, which, you know, to be fair, I was fine with that because I was still gonna play it, I was still gonna enjoy it, I was still gonna love it. But a large part of me was thinking the exact same things that you mentioned. There are all of these other things that they could do that don't necessarily make it a completely different game, but sort of just elevate the what's now slightly dated game design decisions, like the stash,
Mhm.
for instance, or maybe adding some sort of seasonal stuff as well. And I was a little disappointed that they didn't take with that and run with it because I think that would have extended the longevity of playing that game by quite a significant degree. Like that is what grinding your games has really figured out is how to keep players engaged on a 4 month basis, right? There's always something new coming over the horizon that's going to get players back into the game, enjoying it with a fresh new perspective. And I wanted that for I wanted that for Diablo 2 Resurrected. I've played, Path of Diablo before. I love Path of Diablo, and I think
Mhm.
that they've really captured that, sort of obviously being inspired by Path of Exile. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, I guess, when I learned that like they weren't really going with another layer of things towards Diablo 2. Is all.
Yeah, I mean, they did do some significant balance in Diablo 2 Resurrected, so something like Summoner Druid became viable. So
Hmm.
before, you could only summon one type of pet for Druid. It was like Spirit Wolves or Dire Wolves or the bear. But in Diablo 2 Resurrected, eventually they made it so that you could summon the entire zoo at the same time. And that made that build viable. It wasn't S tier, but it was viable with enough skills and everything. Actually, one of my strongest builds I ever made in Diablo 2 Resurrected is a build where it's a little bit of a cheat. I cheated a little, okay, because I it was on a ladder and I started two characters on different accounts. One was an enchantress and one was a summoner druid, and I took the enchantress with like she had like a level 40 enchant and she enchanted the entire zoo army of the druid.
That's
And
amazing.
then I got Enigma, and then I got Infinity on the Mercenary for the Conviction Aura, which reduces the elemental
Nice.
resistance.
Yeah,
And I literally was a telly stomping god. It was like vroom, Diablo dead, vroom, Bale dead. It was like one shotting everything, you know.
for
It
sure.
was, but one of the funnest builds I ever made though, because it required so many pieces. You know, like I had to build two characters first of all, and they both had to have all the best gear. And then once that all happened, the build was insane. It's on my channel. It's called I think the thumbnail says Telly Stomping Monster, and then the title is something like Summoner Druid deletes entire game. Yeah, and so I built that on a ladder once, and that was one of the strongest ever. So that was made possible because of Diablo 2 Resurrected patches. They also did add the terror zones. I don't know if you stuck around long enough for those. The
I
terror
did.
zones,
Yeah,
yeah.
I never thought that they were like they were enough. Like they weren't
No,
enough
it wasn't.
substance. Yeah.
It allowed you to farm other areas though,
Hmm.
whereas before people only farmed level 85 areas or above, and that's like in above means, if there's like a boss sometimes or something. It was mostly just level 85.
Yeah.
So once the terror zones came into play, it did make the leveling past 90 a little better. It did make some of the drops better, and you were able to farm more areas. And that brings me to another point though about Diablo 2, which I kind of liked, which was it's pretty grindy because you're kind of killing the same bosses over and over again or farming the same areas, but you did have to make a build tailored to that area usually.
Yes.
So think about Travancore, where it's like all those demon council dudes and they all summon hydras and it's just fireballs everywhere. And so the idea is to, make a barbarian who can item find on the corpses to double your drop chance, potentially, and then get a level of fire resist and fire absorption so that fire just heals you, and farm that area over and over again, And so I remember that was how when I first wanted to make Enigma on Diablo 2 Resurrected, what happened was, I still remember this, is I had a strafe Amazon. I loaded into the Durance of Hate level 2, killed one undead like ghoul dude or whatever it was, vampire looking dude. The guys that summon the
Yeah, the
shoot. Yeah, you know
meteors.
what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, and so I killed one of those right outside the waypoint. A jaw rune dropped, and I was like, "Duh!" And so I
Yes.
grabbed it, and then I immediately started a barbarian, leveled him up, and geared him up for Travancore, and farmed Trav until I got a burr rune, and then made my first Enigma, and that was how I did that. And so it's just kind of like, in Path of Exile 2, do you have to make a build for farming a certain thing? Like, kinda. Not really. My build that's good at Breach is good at Ritual. It is also good at Expedition. It's also good at Delirium, right?
Right. I think with Path of Exile, you know, the the way that the game is structured is about efficiency and optimization, and it's just not optimal usually to just have a character that's really good at farming one particular thing but not everything else. I think that in order to play Path of Exile 2 in sort of like the most optimal way, you want to have your build that can basically do everything. Bosses, any pinnacle boss, any sort of like end game content as well. And that's why I
Yeah.
really liked, obviously like the hammer did in Diablo 2, like doing magic damage
Yeah,
really
do
sort of
everything.
negated it really sort of negated a lot of the elemental resistances in hell as well. So I think that like yeah, I wanted to touch upon another thing that you sort of talked about in terms of like the build viability in Path of Exile 2 and how it's not quite there yet. And I think it's exactly what you said. I think it's about the items. Like you talked about the helmet that the barbarian could use that are basically allowed for, utilizing a skill that wasn't part of the barbarian skill tree, but opened up possibilities for something else to happen, something special to happen. And I really
Yeah.
hope that Path of Exile 2, I'm sure they're very aware of the way that itemization works in Diablo, being that it was the primary inspiration for the game. But I really hope that they sort of add in those things. And they already have sort of added in a few things. Like there's an amulet from Zesh that allows you to like cast lightning or like a thunderbolt every time you like
Mhm.
crit something, basically.
It's
And so
like
it's giving
it
you
says
like
choir, right? The something choir amulet.
I can't remember what it's called. I have it in my stash, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like, it's allowing me to utilize like a spell that I don't actually have on a some sort of trigger. And so I
Yeah.
really hope that they sort of play into that more because I think that's going to create sort of what you're talking about, these interesting build
Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that they need to do stuff like that. So something that's like really hard to build into right now, and I tried theory crafting this, and it was not quite there. Is I tried to theory craft a storm mage monk. So a monk that has some storm mages, but then you have a quarterstaff, and you're fighting and doing falling thunder and stuff like that. And it just kind of like wasn't quite there. Like I could do maps, but I didn't have enough life exactly, like or energy shield. The damage was like hit or miss, and I don't know, it just wasn't quite there. So I kind of had to abandon that build. And so, there could be a unique helmet or a unique amulet or a unique belt or quarterstaff or something that is like um increases, to quarterstaff like skills or lightning based damage also apply to minions or lightning based minions or something. And so that way, if you get that unique quarterstaff or helmet or whatever it is, you're like, oh, dude, the storm mage build, monk build is now possible.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
that's what's right, like something like that, where you're like, oh, that's that build. Like I have the thing for the build. So I don't know if that's just my Diablo 2 brain working too much, and some people might not like that. But I think that's what makes some drops really exciting in Diablo 2 is you go, oh, dude, that's the item for that build. That you need that item for that build. That puts that build online. Um, like
Hmm.
Death's Web from Diablo 2, which is that wand, and it gives you like a huge negative enemy resistance for poison, and gives you cast speed, and gives you plus skills for poison and stuff. So if you get that item, if you get that wand, it completely unlocks a poison nova necromancer. Like completely. It's so powerful once you get that thing. Your build is just completely wrecking for poison. But then also what's cool about that weapon is because it has um, generic additions. It's not just like necromancer only, which a lot of Diablo 2 stuff has. It's generic. You can use it on other classes and try to do some weird off meta stuff with it. So that's something that Diablo 2 has a lot of, where you get an item and it unlocks something or it makes other builds possible. And I think Path of Exile 2 has that. It's just that I don't know. I guess it's not like clicking in my head where it's like that's the item, because a lot of times I'm seeing certain uniques in Path of Exile 2 used across multiple different builds, and that's fine. Like you have that in Diablo 2 as well, but like I'm not seeing anything where it's just, I guess, like maybe the Mjolnir hammer is one that comes to mind,
Hmm.
where people want to like cosplay as Thor, and if you get that, then you can do that build. Like that might be the number one that I can think of that gives you that build.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think
Right.
one of the other distinguishing factors is that a lot of these build defining items, like the, I forget what the hammer is, the one that from the expedition pinnacle boss, is locked behind getting to that pinnacle boss and then getting the chance to get that item. Whereas in Diablo 2, there was a chance that any of these items could drop at any point in time. And
Yes, dude.
what I
Yes.
mentioned in the video was that those became moments, like listening to you describe when you found your jaw rune, and then you immediately were like, you got your brain tinkering, like, oh, now I can make my enigma if I get a burr rune from, farming like upper trav or whatever.
Yep.
It's like, that type of stuff doesn't really happen that much in Path of Exile 2 yet, but I do think they are conscious of it. I mean, you saw the, point 2h patch notes where they're very conscious of the unique items that are in the game right now. They need to add more of them. And I think that over time, I'm pretty confident that we will see more of those items that exist throughout the campaign that we can find that sort of unlock those sort of build enabling sort of items, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a unique right now that I'm playing around with. I'm I think I'll probably do a video on it eventually. But it's Plague Finger, and I know other people have used it before, but I made a pretty strong monk using Gathering Storm and Plague Finger and going poison. So what that does is it just takes all of your damage and it all contributes to poison magnitude. So if you do
Hmm.
lightning damage or cold damage or whatever, it doesn't have to be chaos or physical. And so you can, in Gathering Storm is super strong when you get the timing right, especially. And it can really be a lot of poison damage, especially if it like crits or something. So I was playing around with that unique, and that was kind of a build defining unique, I guess. But it's also, like I said, it's not like, oh, now I can make that build. It's just now the build does poison damage,
Hmm.
right? Like I've just converted damage, and there are uniques like that too, where it's like 100% of your damage or your lightning damage is fire now, and 100% of your lightning is cold now, and stuff like that. Like they have that, and that's not really like when you get that, does it really feel like you've unlocked a new build, or like just converting the element? I don't know, kind of maybe. To me, it's not as exciting as some of the D2 items where it was like, you know, like dude, okay, is there anything in any game like getting Enigma? You know, the getting Enigma in Diablo 2 is one of the best freaking item chases of all time.
Oh,
And
you're absolutely right.
it's
You're absolutely
it's
right.
and here's here's the thing. It's so imbalanced. It's so imbalanced because the sorceress gets teleport and nobody else does.
Yeah.
Right? Except you can get it on a staff. You can get charges on a staff and use that, and or you can get Naja's set staff, which has like, what is it, 67 charges or something like that of teleport on it. And so that's fine. But getting that Enigma for the first time that you've ever made one, and then you put it on your Hammerdin or you put it on your Summoner Druid or your Summoner Necro so you can just telestomp at will with your army. And it suddenly is just like, dude, my build is amazing now, you know? Like that is something that they kind of, I think I saw a little bit of that in a way on the last league when Temporalis was getting like duped. But
Yeah.
that's not, but it's not quite the same, right? Like when you equip Enigma, it gives you so much and it feels so worth it because you grinded for so long to get the runes for it, you know? Um, Whereas like in Path of Exile 2, if you replace your chest armor, it just feels like your build doesn't work anymore. You know? It's like, oh, my if I have to get rid of my rare body armor, it's like I lose all my energy shield and evasion, and I lose like I can't even use my skills anymore because I had intelligence on it. There's something like that that kind of happens. Whereas in D2, it's just like boom, clink, like Enigma, my build is better now. Sick. And I spent 3 weeks farming to get it. You know, so there is that kind of feel that's really fun. And also just the idea of collecting runes and having to piece them together. When you get that one rune and you're like, dude, I need like 2 or 3 more. It gives you that sense of progression in a way because you have part of the item made now. And then the base item is another thing too. But yeah, so there's something about that I think I don't know if you can ever top the feeling of making Enigma in Diablo 2. Because it requires some imbalance, first of all, and it requires really rare drops. And then it requires that overpowered feeling at the same time. It's really hard to get. So I don't think Path of Exile 2 needs something like that necessarily. You can let Diablo 2 keep that one, you know?
Yeah, I think that to sort of build on what you're saying, the the chase of getting Enigma is feels so good for so many different reasons. Basically, the way that you broke it down was it is overpowered. It makes your character overpowered. It gives you one of the most overpowered, if not the most overpowered ability in the game. It allows you to teleport, which is just insanely strong. But to get it, it's like what you said. It's not just one unique drop. It's multiple runes that have such a low chance of dropping. It's like getting, finding Astromentus twice in
Yeah.
Path of Exile 2, and
Yeah.
then needing to get the perfect base for it as well to put those two Astromentuses into. So it's something that like
Right.
you build over time. You work towards building. And then after you finally build it, it allows you to become like a god. And so I don't think that Path of Exile 2 necessarily needs that particular thing, but I think that they can take notes about how you can work towards building these items over time with maybe some specific, I don't know,
Yeah.
socketables, crafting currency, something like that that players can use to really work towards creating those moments where they're like, wow, I worked so hard to get this stuff all together, and now I have this godlike ability, basically, in whatever
Right. And
way it
so,
is.
yeah. And a part of it is like, so Enigma gives you strength based on character level, it gives you magic find, and it gives you 45% run walk. So your character suddenly can equip everything. The items you're finding are suddenly better. Um, and you're running around faster and you're teleporting at will now with characters that normally can't do that. So for Path of Exile 2 to even get close to matching that, they would have to do something like a special socketable or something that grants you like blink and leap attack at the same time, and it doesn't take up a skill slot. It would have to just be like it doesn't take up a skill slot, but now you can leap, and then blink right after, and you have all this mobility. It would have to be something like that, and it's so rare. And you have to piece it together like freaking Horcrux from Harry Potter or something.
Mhm.
And that would kind of give you that feeling, I think, of building Enigma in Diablo 2, right? It's like now I got this. Now I don't have to use my skill slots for mobility. I have it in the armor with
Mhm.
the socketable that I pieced
Mhm.
together by defeating all the pinnacle bosses or whatever. Something like that. And it's like, well, I defeated everything. I found everything. I have it. It's like now what? It's like, well, now we can play the game, dude. So yeah, like there's something like that is kind of how you would have to build Enigma quote unquote, right? In Path of Exile too, because they would have to just kind of give you this new mobility or something. But it's not exactly the same because, like you said in your video, Diablo 2 has such class identity, and that's what makes it so novel to get that enigma on another character. But yeah, so we'll see, man. I'm excited for the new items they are going to add. I remember Jonathan saying a long time ago in an interview, he was like, "Yeah, I want to do some cool shit with uniques," and I was like, "Dude, yeah." And then I was a little bit disappointed, honestly, with a lot of the uniques when it first came out. But he said in the recent interview with Try, a lot of these uniques were made with the campaign in mind, and we're just adding more and more. We just added a bunch. Like we're gonna up the drop rates of some of these because some of these are cool, but just no one's finding them. It's like, okay, like they get it. They're gonna do it.
Yeah, no, I'm super optimistic. Based on precisely the next patch that's going to come out, it looks like they're very conscious of these decisions that they've been talking about. And they have all the pieces in play, Michael. Like they have runes, they have soul cores, they have
Mm-hmm.
like all of these different things that they can use to create or to capture that lightning in the bottle that made you feel so dope when you built that enigma. Like all the pieces are there. They just have to slowly sort of iterate on that, right? And I think
Yeah.
that, more things can be said for like things like jewels or like, having more unique jewels that unlock more capabilities, having something that maybe perhaps allows you to socket those particular jewels in your gear or something like that. Like there are a lot of these pieces that exist in the game right now. It's just them like kind of locking in and getting it all put together. And I'm sure that
Well,
they'll figure it out.
I actually think one of the reasons that they removed jewel sockets from the passive tree in 0.20 is so that you can get more eventually.
In terms of on the tree or in your gear, because there is that
In the
armor that
tree.
allows you to socket 6 jewels as a chest
There is
piece, which
that.
is
Yeah.
fascinating.
No, I think at some point, either like maybe one of them will be like a campaign quest reward, but more likely it'll be way end game style stuff. Like there'll be like some kind of league mechanic eventually that you can follow the progression through, and
Hmm.
it'll allow you to place jewel sockets in your passive tree where you want. And I
Right.
think I think that is why they got rid of them, is because, well, one, people were, so I actually didn't like that they got rid of them at first because I was like, some of the excess jewel sockets were allowing me to do certain things with my build that I couldn't path to normally.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you just took away build variety, and I got really bummed out by that. But I think there were, I don't know, I guess people were getting too overpowered with it. Um,
They were really
but
strong, and I feel like right now
they
playing through
were,
point
they were,
two, it
yeah.
feels a little bit more balanced. I mean, I basically solved resistances through just enchanted jewels, like in like point one,
Mm,
like where any sort of resistances I was lacking, I just go on the trade website, buy myself a enchanted jewel with like +7 chaos or whatever, and then
yeah.
you had access to like uh a fully decked out character, probably like 9 or 10 jewel slots. It was like, you really could just take advantage of that too much. And I understand their rationale for why they sort of hone that back a little bit. But I do think that what you mentioned about giving players access to more slots through milestones throughout the campaign or milestones throughout the game is something that is quite interesting.
It was also like an item chase. So like improving jewels is kind of one of those things that you can really think about if you're min maxing. And then sometimes the jewels are like what make it work. So like for example, I have like I was telling you, I was playing around with Plague Finger to get a poison damage monk,
Hmm.
and the jewels for that are like really important actually. So like I had in my stash, I went because I like save like every jewel. I don't trade any of them. I just save them all. And so I was like just typed in poison into my stash, and I looked through the jewels, and I had all these jewels that had like 15% increased poison magnitude on them, like a bunch of them. And I was like, oh, cool. So I just slotted in like 3 of those throughout the tree, and then suddenly I have 45% increased poison magnitude just in jewels. That's not including anything else I grabbed on the tree. So, and some of them even had like poison chance on them. So I was able to, get my chance to poison basically 100%. I think it was like 98% or 99%. Uh, so, which is cool because then the jewels basically allow the build to really come together. So I think I would like to see something like that. eventually is just a way to kind of slot in a couple of those, like maybe just like two, like maybe two jewel sockets you can unlock in the end game or something with a new quest line or something like that. Which reminds me, I'm really actually excited about the end game more so now after Jonathan mentioned that it's really really unfinished in terms of the progression through the league mechanics. So he was mentioning Breach, and he was like, "Yeah, um, like you fight Zesh, like you get the splinters, but he goes, that's like barely any of it. He goes, you're supposed to hit like a boss and like progress through Breach, and then get to Zesh, not just get to Zesh and then just fight him 4 times." And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So it'll feel, and he said there's the onboarding needs to be better, so it'll feel more like a quest line when it's all finished. And he said there's just not enough content. He's like, we're it's just not done. Like it's bare bones. So I was like really happy to hear that because it'll make pursuing those way more fun. I think if you're like, oh, I got the first boss down from Breach, I'm on the second one, and here's the third one, like, and now I'm at Zesh, and like it'll just feel a lot better. I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think it's common knowledge that the end game was sort of thrown together in the last however many months before prior to point like 01 releasing, and even since point one, it's really felt like a pretty substantial journey in terms of how much more the end game feels better. Like,
Yeah.
just looking at it comparatively between like point one and point two, like I can't like, oh dude, it's gonna be so good when the game's actually done and there's like multiple varieties of different content for bosses for all of those things that you just mentioned and more
Mhm.
stuff. It's like we can't even like fathom what or how in depth it's gonna go.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a really good gameplay loop once it's all in there. Um, I like when it first launched, dude, I was getting so frustrated with the on death effects and everything and the one shot mechanic. I was getting so upset with it. I literally didn't make videos for a long time because I didn't know how I wouldn't just bitch the entire time about it.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, I'm just gonna like wait until I kind of figure this out because I don't want to just start making videos and just start bitching. And then really it's just because I just don't know how to play the game or something. So I waited and I waited. Yeah, and so I waited and waited and like kept playing. I just kept playing. But a lot of the end game I was pretty frustrated. And then once I kind of figured out like what worked better in that first patch, that first launch or whatever, which is chaos inoculation and energy shield.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh wow, this is way better with 10,000 energy shield, and then and immune to chaos. That makes great. That makes sense now. And so I just did that, and it was a little bit more enjoyable. I was able to actually progress a lot better without getting destroyed all the time. And so the new patch is definitely significantly better. I like that they added the portals. I like that they're making it not so punishing. And I think they're just going to keep refining that until it feels just fun most of the time with the challenge. The next thing on the chopping block is for sure the volatile plants that are killing more than 50% of players in the end game. I just died to one of those the other day, and it was like total BS. It was like my guy, got stuck on a wall somewhere and it was surrounded, and there was like literally just it was like 15 of them, just like And I was like, dude, I like what the hell? It's like I never die unless it's that, and that's where I'm at like now with my character on Dawn of the Hunt. And so yeah, I can't wait till they get rid of that shit. But um, I think it's going to keep getting refined, like you said, and it's going to be really fun. I'm hoping that it feels a lot more like quest like with these league mechanics too. Once they have all the content.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but I've just been, really just enjoying the experience and enjoying the ride and seeing sort of how I want to say rough around their edges it was at the beginning. And I think like having sort of that in the back of my mind is helping me appreciate how much better the game is going to be over time. Like it's like what you said, you know, in point one, it was so frustrating, past the level 90 XP mark where you would grind for an hour and then you would die and all of that progress was gone. And then you lost your map and then you would have
Yeah.
to redo it all again. And it's like, it was,
Yeah, that. Thanks for
it
bringing that up because
yeah.
that's really what it is. Is like it's the quadruple whammy of
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yes. So they really, I think that's the beautiful thing about early access was that whoever thought that that was a good idea was obviously wrong. And we
Yeah.
had to put players through the experiences in order to figure that out. Whereas, if the game had just released into, 1.0, like full release, like there would be an amalgamation of all of these design decisions that were not the appropriate decision that they would have to then go back and just reformat everything. So I do think that early access was a fantastic choice for GGG, and it's allowed them to really hone in on like what the players actually are experiencing. And I don't know. I'd be curious to know if they had sort of this data metric in place for PoE one, like all of the statistics that they've been dropping, like the volatile plants, death stuff. I know that in the recent interview with Jonathan, they had mentioned that they just hired a guy who does like data analytics and metrics and stuff like that, and he was praising that guy. So that guy's been doing a killer job. So it
Yeah.
seems like that's something new that they're using in their sort of game development toolbook. Um, I assumed previously that they had that sort of stuff for PoE 1 and they just brought that guy over to PoE 2. But it sounds like now that that guy's on board, they're going to be really even more so aware of more stuff like volatile plants, like hidden grotto, and
It's
all these different things, right?
Yeah, dude, it's so funny. So that's kind of funny to me when Jonathan said that, where he said we have the data and we looked at it, and I was like, dude, I didn't need any data. I could have told you need to nerf volatile plant. Are you kidding me?
One
Like I was
hundred
like,
percent.
come on, dude. Like I was like, I was literally getting destroyed by those every once in a while. Like obviously I got better, because if you walk through them, then they stop and they take a second to explode.
Hmm.
Um, so like once you realize that, that makes it a little better. But sometimes you get in these situations where it's just you can't move or something and whatever. But the thing that about it that makes it frustrating is like if you're a melee character, which a lot of the characters I play are melee because I like that better than ranged. Um, there's so many things that are just make it really hard in the end game. Like you go up to a rare, he's got a temporal bubble, and then he's got these things that just start forming on the ground, and then there's like freaking plants heat seeking you, and your guy is like, okay, well I'm a melee, like I have to be near him to hit him, but I can't because I can't stand on the ground, and then I can't actually hit him because my guy's so slow from the temporal thing. So I just felt like especially in the first patch. I mean, it's still kind of there where your guy needs to kind of be able to kill a rare in one or two hits. Otherwise, like, how are you supposed to go up there and be like, oh, and my health globe is draining, and now I got to dodge roll, but I'm slow, and then here comes the thing, and I just thought like some of those design decisions, like it's supposed to make the game harder, but it feels like it just makes it more frustrating a lot of times. So there's ways to solve these things. Like there's chaos inoculation or really good chaos res. There's better res overall for whatever ground effect is on the ground. Evasion makes you not get hit. There are things that make it so that you are unhindered by slowing effects, right? So there are ways around them. But I guess I was just, feeling the full wrath of the end game for a while.
Yeah, and playing melee. I mean, I don't mean to sound blunt or anything, but it is just harder. I mean, I've played both. I played Smithic
Mhm.
Otava on League Start for Dawn of the Hunt and did pretty well. He's like level like 93 on HCSSF. But then I made a new character. I made a Blood Mage, and she's level 94 now. Lightning Spear, Rake, Blood Hunt, and just destroying everything. And it's just like from
Yeah.
range, you're at such an advantage. Like you don't worry about temporal bubble, you don't worry about plants blowing up in your face, and you have time to run away from them or dodge them and stuff like that. So I hope that they can sort of acknowledge the fact that melee struggles for different reasons. Also, we don't need to get into the whole armor thing. They know that it's a bit of a struggle, but I think it is sort of playing the game. You have to play the game more like Dark Souls and
Yeah.
really be familiar with the spacebar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that. And then also, it's kind of hard to, like the way you would have to make melee better is like it just has to be tankier, I guess.
Yes.
Because you know, speed and range always wins. Like in real life, if you have a gun and you can move faster and there's a guy coming at you with a baseball bat, like you're probably going to win that fight every time, right?
For sure.
So so it's like just because the exception to this is turn-based RPGs where melee is better than ranged. Like my favorite game actually is not Diablo 2. My favorite game is actually Final Fantasy 7.
Okay.
And in that game, swords are stronger than guns.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think
Mm.
that, they have to look at speeds for sure. I think, one of the major differences between playing through both of my characters that I've done so far in Dawn of the Hunt was, on Smith, you are incredibly tanky with the overcast
Mhm.
resistances, high block chance, really high armor. But you are so slow, dude. You are just moving like a freaking snail through these maps. And yes, you can leap
Yeah.
slam around and stuff like that. But that's only based on your like attack speed. And if you're using like a two-handed mace, then you're not attacking very quickly. Whereas like with lightning spear or whatever ranged ability, if you're using like galvanic shards or lightning arrow or whatever, you're just moving so fast and it feels so like freaking fun. And so I hope that they can
Yeah.
they can make it so that defenses feel better for melee, but also the speed at which you're moving around feels better too.
That's something that I brought up in one of my videos recently about it was my video called Holy Descent Titan, where I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
experiment with some regen and Zealot's Oath and Energy Shield and armor.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I got it working. It's just that I didn't have enough damage then because I had to use my whole tree for like armor, energy shield, and regen just to
Right.
get it working. And so that build, there's like in the video that I did, I do like a T15 or like a level 8. I think it's level 80, so it's like 16 technically. Boss, and I have all the boss nodes unlocked, and it's the fungus druid guy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and he literally barely hurts me the entire fight. And I was like, oh, like this kind of works. This feels good. The only problem is I had to fight him for like 3 minutes straight to kill him, you know? whereas like I just did on my current build on Dawn of the Hunt, I just switched it up actually, and I was trying to work on a video for it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really good, dude. It does everything, and it's within the vision or whatever. Like I'm using combos, and it's
Nice.
really strong. Yeah, like it's tanky and it's good at single target and it's good at clear. And I don't have to switch anything on the skill gems up at all. And
That
so
feels good.
I'll show that one off pretty soon. I was trying to work on it today, and it took a lot longer to make the video than I thought it was going to take. But anyway, so I got that coming, and that build feels amazing, and it's pretty fast. Like you're zipping to the targets and stuff. And yeah, like on Warrior, I don't know. It's like, I mean, I've seen a lot of really great slow Warrior builds. I know that the Smith can be really tanky. My brother actually plays Path of Exile 2 a lot, and he did make a Smith of Katava as well. And and he did something with it where he went like quarterstaff abilities with Smith, and his is pretty tanky. Like it definitely has like high res, really good regen, all that stuff, and it's pretty good actually. But every once in a while, he will just kind of get one shot, and
Mm.
it's just because he's not using energy shield.
Interesting. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to say. Like I don't want to jinx it, but my Smith of Katava feels like an absolute god. Like I was showing him off to my brother who also plays Path of Exile. He came over to visit the other day, and I said, "Look at how crazy this character is." I was something like a T16 like juiced map, like I don't know, 4 or 5 mods or something like that, and I just placed him there and it just let him stand there, and he just
So
stood
wait, so
there and had
yeah,
people wailing on him like a full surround, and his health just wasn't even going down.
so
He'll only
do you
die to chaos
recall
damage.
only chaos? Okay, so do you
Yeah.
recall like what your res is at in your regen and your life pool and all that?
Yeah, so he's not quite 90 all. I think he's 88 all. He's constantly at 90% armor, so max armor you can get. He's at 50 block and chaos is max as well, but like that's the thing with volatile plants. It doesn't matter if you have 75 chaos, they're still going to just absolutely
Y-
destroy you like
Yeah,
in
like
3
if,
of
if
them or
you're getting
something.
hit by them, they all hit you. Yeah.
Yeah. But aside from chaos damage, like he's an absolute beast. But yeah, he is just really, really slow. But I
Yeah.
love the Smith of Katava. I love what they did with that ascendancy. It was such a nice addition to have in Dawn of the Hunt. And it is, I think, the best like character for hardcore. If you ever decide that you
Mm.
want to go on like a hardcore SSF journey, like give the Smith of Katava a try. It's so fun and so durable as well.
I definitely wanted to give it a try. That's one of the ascendancies I haven't tried yet. Um, there's a few I haven't really tried. Like I haven't tried, Witch Hunter or Tactician. I haven't tried any of the Amazon ones, even though that's like the
Mm.
new one. You know, because this league I actually went Invoker Monk, which everybody did last league, but I was thinking, like if I really want to progress in the end game and not die a lot, I feel like I want that meditate double my energy shield thing. So that was kind of why I went that. I was just thinking like defensively it'd be nice, and and if I could just get a good body armor, I can get a bunch of spirit with what's it called, lead me through grace or whatever. So I
Mm.
um so I decided to go Invoker Monk for the league, and I thought it was really fun actually. So even though I'd played that one before, but yeah, those are some of the ascendancies I haven't tried yet. The Amazon ones and a couple on the mercenary, but I think I've done almost all the other ones though.
That's impressive. I haven't done maybe I've only done
Oh,
maybe like a quarter of them, but I will recommend to you this. So I know that you love Diablo 2. Obviously, we've been ranting about Diablo 2 for like the last hour or so.
yeah.
Playing playing I don't know how you play Path of Exile. You're playing, I'm assuming it's Trade League because that allows you to have access to a lot of items for your builds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Give SSF a try. And why I'm going to recommend this to you specifically is because it creates the same meaningful choice and meaningful decision making that is reflected in Diablo 2, and that's what's
Mhm.
drawn me so much to that particular like playstyle, or like I guess we'll call it like a league or whatever, is because you're not looking at items in terms of their currency value. You're looking at them in terms of how usable is this for my character, or what can I do with this to make it so that it's better for my
I do
character than
that.
yeah.
No, no, dude, I do that. So like I'm on the trade league, but I play it as if I'm playing SSF.
Oh,
So
okay, that's cool.
yeah, no, dude, like I pick up everything, I ID everything. I look at
Hmm.
everything in terms of if it has value for a new build or for a recombinator,
That's cool.
and I don't really trade a lot. Actually, I use the reason I'm doing the trade league is because the quality of life and the time saver of the currency exchange is just really nice.
For
So
sure.
and because if you do find something that is really valuable, it is nice to be able to convert that to currency so you can exalt slam more drops and stuff. So I pretty much play it like it's SSF. Like I did the same thing in D2. Like I was notorious like on when I used to live stream, they were like, dude, you identify like everything. I'm like, yeah, I know. What if it's the best blue item ever? You
Yeah.
know? Like I'm gonna find it. Like I'm gonna find the best blue pair of boots in the game. So there was stuff like that's it's a little bit of a carryover. Like it's like a compulsion I have almost.
I do the
So
same
I
thing,
pick up a
bro.
lot of stuff, dude. Yeah, like I pick up a lot of stuff. I ID lots of stuff. I carry like sometimes I'll carry 80 freaking identity scrolls in my inventory. And I'll just be like, ching, 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 just like identifying everything and dropping it and keep going. Cause I just want to see what I can find. I really do like that. And I'm usually thinking like build enabling items too. So
For sure.
yeah, dude, I totally get where you're coming from. And um maybe I would do a SSF for like a new league or something. But the only thing is, because my brother plays, sometimes we hopped on and played together, and that's really fun, you know?
Totally. I do miss the party play. I just recently started a playthrough where we're playing, me and a fellow like content creator are playing hardcore together, but we're only allowed to trade between each other. So we're in trade league because that's the
Yeah.
only way we can do that. But it's been really
Yeah.
fun to play co-op with somebody and see sort of how these like synergy between skills. Like I'm using armor piercing rounds, and then he's playing a warrior. So every monster is taking 20% more damage because he's doing physical damage and their armor's broken. So it's like cool to see that stuff that works well between like two characters. But yeah,
Hmm.
the SSF journey for me has been so incredibly fun that I've almost chosen that level of Path of Exile, where now I'm just exiled to the Cell of Self-Found League, just because I love
Hmm.
those decision making moments that bring me back to sort of those Diablo 2 days. And it really does
Yeah.
extend your playtime and your enjoyment through the game as well. Like I've played a ton of hours in the game, and I think that's primarily because like the progression is a little slower, a little bit more not grindy, but it takes a bit more time to get to where you want to go, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think with Recombinator, I think it makes SSF a lot better for people too.
100%. Recombinator
You
has been a
you have a
blessing, man.
chance, right? Like it's like you have a
Yeah.
chance. And then they obviously they upgraded the loot drops, you know.
Yes.
They did the whole
Yes.
loot patch. So, I mean, I noticed immediately how much better the drops were after that patch, dude. It
Same.
was like
Yeah.
yeah, like I like half the freaking items I was picking up were like, well, these could all be good in the Recombinator, you know? Like it's like,
Yeah.
it's like geez, I got to pick
Yeah.
keep everything now. Yeah, so yeah, I was ended up having to be even more discriminating after the loot patch, you
For
know?
sure. Yeah. No, I,
You-
I love the Recombinator. I feel like the Recombinator made it so that magic items had so much more value to them. Which
Mhm.
again, like sort of is inspiration from Diablo 2, where like those magic items could roll potentially really nice too. Affix. They can't be more powerful, but man,
Yeah.
imagine if they just ripped that and they just put that in the game where like if you find a T5 magic item, it had like a T13 mod or something like that. Like very
Dude, I
rare, you
mean,
know?
yeah, and then it goes down one if you upgrade it to a rare, right? Like that's
Yes,
how it would have to
yes,
work. And
yes.
I would be so for that. I actually made a character on one of the latter seasons of D2, and it was the only time I ever made a Javazon. Okay. You know, the
Mhm.
lightning spear Javazon or
Oh yeah,
whatever, that which is what everyone's playing in Dawn of the Hunt.
yeah,
But it was the only time I ever made that build because that build is so meta. I just felt like I don't even want to play it because I already know how that works.
for
And
sure.
but so I made that character, but the off meta, you know, thing for it was that I can only use blue items. And
Mm.
dude, it was really good still because you can get like I said, you can get gloves that have 3 to spear and javelin skills on them. You can get a tiara with 2 to Amazon with 30 run walk, and then you can Larzik it for 2 sockets if you're lucky. And then all the jewels can be good that you put in there, you know.
Yeah,
And then there's also even blue spears, like throwing spears that can roll plus, oh gosh, is it I think +6 to javelin and spear skills.
yeah.
And
So you were cooking with that, just only blue.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then of course I shopped vendored a body armor with 4 sockets that had like 100 life on it. So it's like a jeweler's, you know, ancient armor of the whale or something like that. It's called. Yeah, that's what it's called. And you
I
know, so you
love
have
the
like
names in
red.
Diablo too. I love how like the
Mhm.
descriptive names and you knew exactly what those things had on it because of the, yeah, the whale or sorry to interrupt you, but just brought
No,
it
no, you're
back.
good. You're good. I mean that's how deep I was into Diablo 2 is like I know the names of the mods. Like I'm pretty into it, right?
Mhm.
But I am like I feel pretty comfortable with Path of Exile 2. So going back to your video, imitation or innovation. I mean, like all I had was Diablo 2 knowledge, right? I didn't play Diablo 3, I didn't play Diablo 4, didn't play Path of Exile 1, didn't play Last Epoch, didn't even play what else? Hades, I guess you and it's like I just went straight from D2 to Path of Exile 2. And it was like I feel like I kind of understand how everything works. You know, I don't know everything. I don't know every mechanic. I don't have the PoE1 content creator brain.
Mhm.
Um, but I just have D2 and that was enough to just be like, "Oh, this would work with that and this would work like I can figure this out." So, I think that's a testament to what you were saying that they really are carrying the torch with that.
There's just such a sense of familiarity and dude, we
Mhm.
have the exact same, well, I mean I did play, Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 because, the only way that Blizzard was going to get more money out of me was putting the name Diablo on something because I love Diablo 2 so much.
Mhm.
There's that copium where it's like, well, maybe this one is going to be, the one that really
Yeah.
takes me back to the fond memories of Diablo 2. But
Yeah.
yeah, I never played Path of Exile 1 either, dude, and I don't really know why. Well, I've talked about it on previous episodes. I think for me, Path of Exile 1 was something that by the time that I got my hands on it, it had been out for a long enough time where that there were so many systems and overlapping things to sort of figure out. and the onboarding in Path of Exile 1 compared to Path of Exile 2 is not nearly as good. So as a new player, I felt
Yeah.
like I was making constant like errors and mistakes in some like irreversible way that would just completely brick my character. And it
Yeah.
was very like off-putting to the point where I just wasn't enjoying it. And I had so many people telling me, "Oh, Blaze, just like suffer through the first 100 hours of Path of Exile and you will absolutely love it." And I
Yeah.
always replied to them, I don't want to have to suffer through a game to like a game. I want to just
Right.
love the
Like,
game
why?
from the moment I get into it. Like that's what
Yeah.
happened to me with Path of Exile 2. I got into
Same.
it. It
Loved it
brought me
immediately.
right in. Exactly.
Mm.
It told me what I needed to know. And the rest of the systems and mechanics were intuitive enough that I could figure them out for myself until I
There.
got to like deep end game and I needed to look up like some very specific, like knowledge based stuff.
Yeah, but that's fun because once you're invested, it's fun to learn, right? So,
Yes.
um, there's another game that is like that too, by the way. It's Final Fantasy 14 Online, which is like the
Mm,
competitor to World of Warcraft, essentially. At one
yep.
point, it was like one of the most played online or something. But so I really love Final Fantasy games, and there was a bunch of people at one point where they were like, "Dude, you got to try it" and stuff, and I was like, okay, fine." So I tried it, and it is such a slog for the first like 100 hours. It's and I couldn't even get through. I think I played it for like 10 hours and I was like, I can't do it. Like, I can't go further. It's just, it's not for me. And everyone just kept saying, like, you just have to get through the first expansion or whatever. And then it gets amazing. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's just too much. There's a lot of games out there. It's just not for me, you know? And I don't really like MMORPGs to begin with, though. Like, even when World of Warcraft came out back in the day, a lot of my cousins were playing it and stuff. I saw them playing it and I made like a conscious decision as a child that I would not play that game because it would probably take over my whole life. And
Mm.
I remember just being like, I'm not going to play it. Like, I don't care. I don't care how good it is. I'm not going to play it. But yeah, I just stuck with D2 and PlayStation 1 RPGs and stuff like that.
That's totally fair. I mean, World of Warcraft did take over my life, like a lot of other
See?
games.
Yeah.
I loved every minute of it, but it was, yeah, it was definitely addictive for sure. So these are some questions. I feel like this particular podcast episode has been super interesting because we sort of just started riffing right off the get go, and it hasn't really felt like
Yeah.
too much of an interview like a lot of my other podcasts have. So I just want to say
Yeah.
thank you so much again for like coming on. This has been a wonderful chat so far. I did want to
Oh
ask
yeah,
you
dude.
some specific questions, bro. If that's cool
Oh
with
sure.
you.
Yeah. That's my bad. I'll just go. Like if you don't rein me in, I'll just talk. Sorry.
No, no, that's not no
Yeah.
problem at all. No, I've been really enjoying it. Yeah, we
Mm.
have such like a similar like gaming history and stuff like that. So I knew that the conversation was going to be like awesome, and it has been.
Yeah.
But I do
Free
want to get
flowing.
some, yeah, for sure. But I do want to get some sort of like a bits of lore about you because I think that it's going to
Okay.
be interesting to sort of learn more about you. For the viewers and for myself because this is like the first time that we've had like a chance to like hang out and chat and stuff like that. So one of the
Mhm.
things that I wanted to talk to you about, first off was sort of honing in more about the off meta stuff. So I wanted to ask you, how did you become interested in off meta builds? And was it in Diablo 2 specifically, or was it in something else where you were like interested in doing off meta stuff?
Um, Definitely Diablo 2, I think, because even as a kid when I was playing it, I kept wanting to make things work that just wouldn't work. And I was always bummed out by that. And part of that was basically because I was a kid and I couldn't understand how to make those things work. So when I replayed Diablo 2, as an adult, especially Diablo 2 Resurrected when I kind of got into it. I wasn't even going to buy that game actually. I actually didn't even know they were making Diablo 2 Resurrected. I was so out of the loop. I had no idea. The day before it launched, I was like, "Oh, it's coming out. I guess I'll get it. I've played it before. Like, is there anything new?" And now here we are like years later, right? So, it was because of that game. I kept trying to make things work. Like I wanted to, like when the Lord of the Destruction expansion came out, I was absolutely enthralled with like the druid and the wolves and stuff. And I really wanted to make like a melee human form druid with wolves on his side, right? And I just couldn't get it to work. And it just kept getting his ass kicked in even nightmare difficulty and stuff. And the balance of the game was different then. But I was always trying to do stuff like that. Um, so once I was a lot more knowledgeable about the game as I got older, I realized how I could make all that work. And that's one of my bigger videos. Bigger, like my channel's not that big, but for me it was big. I made Monk Druid on Diablo 2. And if you look at the comments on that video, people are like, dude, I've never could have thought of it. Like, this is so cool. Like, no one's ever made this build, like stuff like that. And it's basically, using the druid skills with a quarterstaff. And he's just using like zeal, and he's using berserk and auto attack and stuff like that. But anyway, I've always been interested in it. My personality, um, you know, everyone conforms to things, right? In life, nobody is completely an outsider in every single way possible. There's certain things, at least in our society, right? So everyone conforms to things, but my default temperament is a bit of hesitancy. So even when I was a kid, when everyone else was doing something, I wouldn't just jump in and do it. I would kind of observe for a while, or just out of like, I don't know what it was. It's like an innate desire to just reject it. So I can give examples too. Like playing on the playground, my mom would take me to some kind of moms and tots group thing, and all the kids are running around and playing. And my mom would say, Michael, do you want to get in there? And no, like, I'm just going to watch. I was like 4 years old and I just watched. I just wanted to watch people. And then as I got older through grade school and stuff, like there were fads. Like people would collect Beanie Babies and collect Tamagotchis and yo-yos, and like people would be amass like lockerfuls of like all of these items and stuff. And which is funny because that's what I'm doing in Diablo, right? But but I didn't. I remember seeing all of that and just being like not interested in that stuff, and just thinking like, why do I need like why would I need to do that? And I don't know. And that kind of carried over even into my adult life for a lot of things. So like so this, I don't know. So this might get, I don't want to get too much on a tangent, I guess. But like I was actually really sick a couple years ago, and I was able to cure a lot of my chronic ailments through diet. So I do carnivore diet, and I have been doing so for 2 years. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but I just eat meat and that's it. And that was absolutely insane when I started doing that. Now there's more people that do it. There's actually a lot of good evidence to suggest that it's very healthy. Not just suggest, but I'm 100% confident in what I'm doing. But anyway, and then on top of that, I actually work at a hospital. So I'm a respiratory therapist, and I am constantly within a system that requires conformity. But my default setting is to not conform to a lot of things just because someone said so, or just because an institution said so, or just because research suggests or the studies show. I'm always skeptical of that stuff. So that might, like, that's my off meta ness, is like, I don't do the meta, you know? Um, I've kind of always been that way. And so like, I guess the build thing is, it's hyper focused on what's most optimal in an RPG. But I like that. I like not doing that. I like seeing what everyone else is doing, and then seeing if you can kind of go your own way with it. So yeah, that's part of it. I guess that's kind of like, I guess that's kind of it, you know?
Okay, wow, that's super cool. So the nonconformity has sort of been a thing that's existed in Michael for as long as you can remember. Um, Tell me, how do you feel when you've pieced together some sort of build that you had an idea for and that you finally got it to work? Because I feel like, that feeling must be really, really great, and it sort of feeds into more of a reason why you don't have to necessarily conform to have fun, because you're able to maybe have as much fun or more fun doing something that isn't conforming. Does that sound like on point, or?
Yeah, yeah. So like I think for Diablo 2 it's a little different because it's been out for 25 years. And so when I was actually starting to come up with things that I'd never seen anyone do before, that was pretty exciting because it was like, dude, it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Like nobody's done this. Like I have a build, I have a poison dagger paladin. And I've never seen anyone do that before, you know? And then another one I have is I have an Amazon build that uses a two-handed sword, and she specializes in damage against undead. And she has to use just the regular attack, but she actually can do like, you know, level 85 and plus zones in hell difficulty if they're all undead. So there's a few areas in Diablo 2 where most of the enemies are undead. And so I made a lady knight Amazon, I called her. And I got like specific rare items so that the color scheme looked like a knight type character and everything. And so I was kind of like cosplaying at one point, like my characters too. It wasn't just about the build. It was like, what does it look like as well? Right? Does it fit the kind of theme and all that? And I thought that was always really exciting because of the game's, you know, legacy and how many years it's been out. So that was fun to me to try to show something that no one has ever thought you could do before in a game that's been out for 20 years. So Path of Exile 2, it's so new that I kind of don't really have that, you know? Um, so like I've been thinking about like, I've been trying to make some off meta builds, I guess you could say. Like I am not playing the meta, you know, when I'm playing Path of Exile 2. But I haven't really found anything yet, I don't think, in the game where it's like, this is really like, oh yeah, like I'm really proud of this build. Like this is like my build that, you know, no one else has done. Like I don't think I've really hit that yet with Path of Exile 2.
Yeah, the way that you describe sort of the feeling of fun really reminds me of the previous conversation I had with Kaltarak, where he
Mhm.
described sort of the way that he approaches his Thorns builds as sort of, I guess I put it as sort of a yin and yang between a perfect balance of fun in terms of a problem that you have to solve. So that's
Yeah.
one aspect of build crafting, right? Is that
Yeah,
you have this
exactly.
problem that you're
Yeah.
solving, and that's super fun. But the other part of the fun is exactly what you described with your Lady Knight, where it's like when you've solved that problem, it's actually she actually like can slap the undead, like she can slap the shit out of the undead, and that's just fun that
Yeah.
she can actually do content. So I definitely can
Right.
see how, like, you know, the off meta stuff is cool and fun because yeah, a, you're solving a problem, which is really enjoyable, and then b, you're seeing the result of that problem being solved in how strong your character is, to the point where she can actually do like content at end game that's viable with
Yeah,
other
there's
builds.
there's there's something about piecing it together. So like when I would have a build idea too, a lot of times this is like months in the making because I would be playing online and it was like, "Oh dude, I just dropped a rare body armor that has exactly what I need for that Lady Knight Amazon." You know? And so I'd set it aside in a stash on a mule somewhere. And then it was like and then I dropped later on like oh, the name escapes me, but it's basically a unique sword that has a crap load of damage to undead with attack rating against undead based on character level. Oh, the name escapes me now. But anyway, I found one. It rolled perfectly and it rolled ethereal, so it has a 50% damage buff to it. So you have to Zod rune it as well, meaning making it indestructible. And Zods are very rare, you know. So,
Yeah.
but I had a bunch in my stash already. So anyway, I had like the rare body armor. Then I found the perfect sword and it was like, okay, that build is happening now, you know, because I have that thing. And so, and this would be like months apart, you know, of stuff. So then I'm like going through trying to remember where I put that belt and I put that ring and stuff. And then I like put it all together, right? And then it like comes together and you test it out and you're like, dude, it actually works. You know, like
It's
I'm playing
alive.
an Amazon. Yeah, like I'm playing an Amazon. She has no skills. Like she's literally just basic attack like this, you know, and it's actually crushing, you know, like and so that I can totally relate to that where it's really fun to make that happen.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, I definitely had a lot of moments like that for D2. But part of that is my familiarity with the game. It's been out for so long. I had all these items kind of ready to go, like just in stashes and stuff. And I would just like hoard everything. And so whenever, like, I was like, I'd be like at work like thinking about making builds when I was doing the D2 stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'd like write down in a note, like, okay, I need this type of thing and this type of thing. And so like I made another one too that was like on a ladder that was really cool. It was a barbarian and he used a crossbow. And there are no skills on the barbarian that can actually like use a crossbow. You know, like you just have to use the basic attack, but he has a lot of passives that you can just like really beef up then because none of the other stuff is going to work out for you. And you also can like take leap and use that to like jump and shockwave, which doesn't do damage, but it knocks everybody back. So I was like literally just like jumping like huh, and like boom, and then everyone gets knocked back, and then I'm just like ba-doo, 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 and like shooting with this crossbow. And I min maxed the crap out of it on a ladder, and it was actually like I killed like the declone with it and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like the
Yeah, yeah.
Diablo that spawns when people sell
Yep.
Stone of Jordans.
That
Like
drops in
I could kill declone with
nihilus.
him,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, with a
Yeah.
crossbow barbarian. So like stuff like that, and I it was really fun because I did the whole playthrough that way too. So that was the other thing I did a lot of was I would make builds and I would start them off as the off meta build from level 1, and I did that on stream a lot. And people were always like, "How is this going to work?" And I'm like, "We're going to make it work," you know.
Yeah, and then it becomes sort of the narrative of like you're starting from scratch and people are seeing sort of the evolution of the build like come online and stuff.
Yeah,
No, that's super
yeah.
cool, man. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about, which is complete, we're gonna shift gears here, okay? This is sort of supposed to be at the very beginning of the podcast. Oh, also before I do this, I want to check
Mm.
in with you. We're at like an hour and a half. How are you doing, and how are you feeling?
Oh, dude, I'm good. I'm great. I actually drank coffee right before we started, so I'm
Okay,
like
right
wide
on.
awake. Yeah.
Nice. All right, man. Well, I wanted to switch gears a little bit here. Um, while we're sort of on the topic of learning about off meta Michael a bit more. So I wanted to talk to you about music. So there
Mm,
was some, a little bit of a musical reference in my video where I talked about how like Diablo reminded me of jazz and Path of Exile reminded me of like an orchestra in terms of
yeah.
the way they're feeling. And it made me think like, I looked into, your stuff. Every time I have a guest on, I try to familiarize myself with who that person is so I can sort of provide the most accurate and in-depth interview. So I
Hmm.
ended up listening to No Time for Summer Flings before the interview. And I gotta say, man, that was rad. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there were a few songs in there that had like like riffs that like echoed like Diablo 2's like kind of like music in a certain way.
That was
Am I
probably
off base there?
incidental. Yeah, that was
Mm,
probably incidental at the time because I wasn't playing Diablo 2 as much back then, really.
okay.
Um, but yeah, that album that I guess it's linked in my YouTube. There is an album on my YouTube channel that is a prog rock album that I recorded and produced and released. That's on like
Hmm.
Spotify and everything, and it's
Hmm.
called ARPG Prog Rock Volume 1.
Okay.
And that is that album has like drums and bass guitar, like everything on it. And I recorded that because what I started doing in my channel was I was actually making prog rock music for each off meta build I was releasing.
Oh, okay.
So like if you go back to my more recent Diablo 2 builds, you'll see like I kind of introduced the build and then there's like a combat montage with music behind it. And
Hmm.
that music I wrote for that build. And then once I came out with like, 14, 15 songs or whatever, I took all those, put it out as an album. And that's why on my YouTube channel, I actually have a little musical note next to my name, is because my YouTube channel is technically an artist channel
Hmm.
for releasing an album. The
Oh,
one that
okay.
you're talking about, though, No Time for Summer Flings, um, it's called so that's an acoustic guitar instrumental album where it's more like a live performance.
It's
So
also
every
really
song,
good, by the way. I never got to tell you
thank,
that, but
thank
dude,
you.
that
Yeah,
was awesome.
yeah, thanks, man. That's all fingerstyle guitar.
Mm.
So that's you have rhythm, harmony, melody, and stuff all on one instrument. And that was a style that I was very, very locked into back then. Gosh,
Mm.
when did I release it? So that I
I think
think
it
I
was
released that.
2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was okay, so I'm 38 years old now. So I was 23, 22, I think, when I did that, and I think I wrote those songs when I was 21.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, so like I was in college. I went to university in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at Marquette, and I majored in marketing and German. And I don't even speak German anymore because it's been so long, but like I understand stuff. But anyway,
Yeah.
but really I didn't know what else to do because I was kind of lost on my direction in life. And so I majored in those things because I liked those classes. But then really what I was doing in college was I was just playing guitar all the time. And I wrote those like that album, No Time for Summer Flings, when I was in like my dorm room, like and then eventually I had a house with some friends and stuff. And I remember writing a lot of those songs and compiling little like demos of them on my shitty flip phone that I had and stuff. And eventually I recorded that. I recorded it in my own like little studio thing that I built. Um, and a friend of mine did the cover art for it. But yeah, that's all instrumental. It's all one take too. So it's like a live style album. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be, and I used to like play those tunes live, like at coffee shops and bars and stuff. And the thing is like those songs are really complicated, and if I tried to play any of them right now, I wouldn't even remember how to start some of them because it's been so long now. But yeah, music and Diablo 2, to relate it all to this, Diablo 2 is definitely influential and like it's in the background of my mind because Diablo 2 has some of the best music ever in a video game.
Word.
It sets the tone perfectly. Um, I love the rogue encampment, and then when you go out to the wilderness and it's like, no, 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 like all that stuff is perfect. PoE 2 has a track in my video, the Singularity video. I A B the two of those,
Hmm.
and you can see it's like, no, 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 and that one is the PoE 2 one that I just hummed, you
Hmm.
know, like, and they are like exactly the same notes, a little different order, but like same scale, even same like cadence and rhythm and stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's Diablo 2 has some great music, man. Like I that was definitely influential on me, even if I wasn't thinking about it all the time. It was definitely there.
Okay, that's interesting because when I was listening to that, I swear I think it was in the second song of the album. There's a few like riffs in there that reminded me of this. And yeah, Diablo 2 of course uses a lot of like acoustic guitar and some of their songs as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
so interesting that it wasn't directly a like intentional inspiration at the time, but more of like maybe a subconscious
Yeah.
inspiration at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I'm an artist as well, so I definitely wanted to sort of talk to you about art for a little bit. So
Mhm.
with your with your music practice and your job and all of these things that are kind of going on in your life, how do you sort of find balance for like gaming, content creation, and all of that sort of stuff with all of the other responsibilities that you have going on right now?
Yeah. So I actually am able to balance it pretty well now because my job, I work 12-hour shifts. So basically 3 days out of the week, I'm completely booked. I can't do anything except my job. Like I have to get up
Hmm.
at like 5:30 in the morning or sometimes 5:15 in the morning. And then I won't get home until about 8:30 at night on the days that I work. And those are pretty long shifts. They're pretty stressful because I work in the ICU and I work in the ER. And even though I'm very competent and really, really good at my job, it still can be mentally draining and even physically because like sometimes you're just on your feet for so long and stuff. So anyway, I work 3 days a week and then I have 4 days off every week. So that's the nice
Mm.
thing about working in healthcare is that there's pretty good job security with it, and then you get all this free time throughout the week. Sometimes some of those days are just spent recovering, but um, I'm able to do what I want to do though on those days off. So if I want to record music or whatever, I can do that. If I want to play Path of Exile 2 all day, then I can. The other thing I've also implemented because I did have I'm getting older, so I mean, I don't feel old or anything, but I am 38 now. And as you start to hit 40, things just don't work as good. So I actually did hire a personal trainer um, at the end of January this year. And that was to get conditioned again because last year I had my appendix out. I
Mm.
had a rotator cuff injury that took 6 months to repair and heal. I had pneumonia from a patient that I caught it from, and it gave me a cough for like a month and a half straight, which, uh, I got over the illness in like a day, but then I just had this cough forever, and it just made it hard to sleep. So anyway, at the beginning of this year, I had like I shrunk down to like probably one of my lowest weights that I've ever weighed, and I was really skinny, really tired, and it didn't help that Path of Exile 2 had come out in December, and all I did was stand like this, in front of a screen, and like my neck was killing me, dude, and my lower back and everything was hurting so bad. And I was looking at my posture in the mirror, and it was just total nerd neck posture. Yeah, I was like, dude, this is bad. Like I got to do something. So I went and hired a trainer. So I actually meet with this trainer now 3 days a week. It is expensive right now, but I'm learning a lot and just kind of focusing on investing in myself in that way. And since I've done that, I've actually gained 13 pounds back just of like muscle. And I don't look like a real muscly guy or anything, but dude, I was really skinny before.
Mm.
And my neck pain is gone, my back pain is gone. My mental clarity is even better than it was before. And it really helps to balance, all of these things like the stress from work and everyday life. Um, Not, going, actually likes the phrase go touch grass. um, like I actually like that that's like a thing for the younger generation because it actually kind of is important. And I'm just doing a lot more of that consciously to try to combat some of the screen time from things like Path of Exile and stuff. Cause like, I'm sorry, but I just was not feeling my best just sitting around playing Path of Exile with all my free time. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I balance it, dude. And then I am married. I have a wife. We don't have any children. That just wasn't something that was happening for us for a long time. So maybe we will still one day, but so far we haven't had luck with that. I have two German Shepherd dogs, so those dogs keep me uh, like kind of going, and it gives you something to take care of, and they need nourishment, and they need training and stuff, and so they're 8 years old now, but they're great family dogs. They're part of our family. So like I have, and then I also have like I love basketball, so I actually built a couple years ago. I built a basketball court at my house outside, and so it's like a half court, but it's NBA size. So it's like 50 feet by 47 feet, and it's all concrete. And I have like a nice hoop. So that kind of forces me to, not forces me, but it compels me to want to go outside and actually touch grass or whatever, right? And play some basketball and get some sunshine. So that's kind of how I balance everything is I have the things that I love are all here. It's like I've got the basketball court outside. I've got my recording studio on the other side here of my room, and where my guitars are, and like all my nice equipment for recording music is right over there. I've got my dogs. My wife is really cool and supportive. She actually used to play World of Warcraft when she was in high school.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you nerd!" No, I'm saying, yeah, but yeah. So she used to play World of Warcraft, dude. She doesn't really play much right now or anything, but
Mhm.
so that's kind of how like we balance that stuff. Like her and I just recently started rewatching all the Mission Impossible movies because there's like the new one out in theaters. And
Nice. Yep.
I don't even know if like someone said like, oh, it's not that good. I'm like, I don't care, dude. Like I haven't seen anything in a theater for a while that I thought was amazing. So I just want to go see a movie, just do something. So we started rewatching the Mission Impossible movies together so that we could go see that, and stuff. So that's kind of how I'm, balancing everything. And then a lot of my family lives close, so like my parents actually are like my neighbors. We built the place that I live in now, my dad and I. It took us a couple years, and I'm not that handy. It's just my dad is, and so I just kind of just did whatever he told me, and then in 2 years I had a house. You know,
That's
so
incredible, dude. That must have been an amazing experience.
Well, amazing and frustrating, and I never want to do it again. We literally tore everything down to the studs and redid everything, like the plumbing, the electrical, all the drywall, like everything. And
Oh
it
wow.
it just yeah. So and it's a very small house. Like I don't have a very big house or anything, but I have a lot of property. So it's like I have like 5 acres, and it's just a lot of space. It's peaceful in that way. And so that's I mean, does that I guess that paints the picture. Sorry, I'm rambling now.
No, that's a beautiful picture, and thank you for sharing so like openly like the way that you sort of like have balanced your life. It's always been an enjoyable question for me to ask because everybody has their own sort of system, everyone has their own sort of process, and you've sort of found yours with your very specific work schedule, which is like a 3 day work week. That's, you get your hours in there, and that allows you for a lot of flexibility with the remainder of the 4 day week that you have, where you can spend time with your family, with your dogs, with everything. I also had a German Shepherd growing up. It was an amazing family dog. Loved her to death, and she was so great, so smart. But yeah, no, it
Yeah.
seems like you really have sort of like have been making like a conscious effort to improve your life in various ways, health wise, mental health wise, physical health wise, everything like that. So that's awesome to hear,
Yeah.
man. And thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
I'm
that.
pretty locked into that stuff. I do a lot of research on that stuff. Um, I could talk forever about like diet and nutrition and stuff like that actually.
Hmm.
So because I see it every day, like at work, people are so chronically ill. They're dying from their lifestyle and they don't know why. And it's really it's starting to become more a part of the conversation though, more in the public, like because there's like the Maha movement and stuff like that here in America, where they're trying to ban like certain things out of the food supply, which is great, actually. Like, please. And so there's a lot more of that conversation happening, but that's something I am pretty passionate about. Actually, is curing ailments with diet. It's something that I personally have experienced. I've shared that knowledge with people. I've helped my brother, especially, and my other siblings, and my parents. Even I had everyone becoming very highly aware of these things that are in our food supply and stuff. So that's the thing I'm very passionate about too. That I don't really talk about it, on my Path of Exile videos, but on live streams before when I would do Diablo 2 stuff, it did come up once in a while. And it was always a part of there was like a part of the conversation sometimes where people would be like, we'd be talking about food for like an hour, and I was like, okay, like I guess back to Diablo, and everyone's like, this is actually really interesting, dude. you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. My mom is a very big proponent of that as well. She's been sort of working. She worked at a naturopathic doctor's office for a really long time. She's not a like ND, but that is a big proponent of the like naturopathic medicine is very much so
Yeah.
your diet, what you're eating, and all that kind of stuff, and how that
Hmm.
directly affects your everything, man. It's you are what you eat. I know it's a cliche, but it makes a big difference, dude. It really does.
For sure. Yeah. Don't eat seed oils, people. All right. Seed oils are bad.
All right. Let's end off on one more question here, guys. We're at about an hour and almost 2 hours, so it's been an amazing chat. Let's end off on something a little bit to tie it all together, basically. So,
Okay.
throughout your content creation journey, what are some highlights, some milestones, some beautiful moments that maybe you could share a couple of those that have really like been like, wow, this has been like a wonderful experience that I've gotten through making content and playing video games.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things. One one was like I kind of found my stride kind of at the end of people caring about Diablo 2. So I kind of mentioned this already, but I was making music for my builds. And I just had this formulaic way of making the video at that point where it just like I knew exactly what to do every time. And it felt really good to have that workflow. And I was pretty locked in there. I was like writing music and just doing all kinds of stuff with that. And I was just being very creative. Like the builds were really creative. The music was all my own. Like I really felt, and I even was putting in kind of little like short stories almost in the beginning of the video. So if you watch the Lady Night Amazon video or you watch my toxic multi-shot druid video, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's these little like blurbs of dialogue before the video starts from the characters, and I splice together dialogue throughout the campaign to make like a narrative. So it took so much work though. It was so much freaking work, but I was really kind of hitting my stride with those videos, and it was almost like too late. Um, 2 years ago, had I been that good with it, I think I could have probably blown up as a D2 content creator. But so I had a lot of fun with that. Other moments was there's actually a video on my channel. It's the most viewed video that I have, and it's actually a Final Fantasy VII video, and it's a theory video I had about the remake series with the compared to the original about time travel, and that was the response I got from that was pretty amazing. And I did make some more videos on that at the time, but then I kind of fell off of that train. And then other than that, like I think this Path of Exile 2 content creator community has been kind of amazing. Uh, I didn't really have anyone reach out to me during my Diablo 2 content creation time ever. Uh, Most people didn't really like acknowledge each other in that space. There was one other dude that made off meta builds. We kind of went back and forth once, but nobody ever like offered to do a podcast or collaborate or share my stuff even. And Talkative Tri is just like the glue for all that. It seems like right now, and
Mm-hmm.
he had me on when he first started his like podcast route that he wanted to do before the launch of PoE2. I was one of the first people that he had on, besides like his core people that he usually talked to. Like I was one of the first people that he ever had on, and he just reached out and was just like, "Hey, man, like I saw a couple of your videos. Like, you want to do it?" And I was like, "Sure, that's cool." And he's like really just been cool ever since. Like it wasn't like he had me on and then he just forgot about me. Even like he would message me and just be like, "Hey, you doing all right?" Because I didn't make anything after. And he was just like wondering how I was doing and stuff. And I don't know. It's just been really cool, and it's really cool that you asked me to come along. And I feel like with that interview that Talkative Tri did with Jonathan, I was saying before that some of those questions were directly from me, and it felt pretty cool to see Jonathan answer my questions. And I was like, damn, dude, like I'm like indirectly um affecting the development of PoE2 now, I guess, right? So that feels kind of cool, like and I like having a voice, I guess. I think I like having a voice. I think that's why I continue to have the YouTube channel. I don't have the YouTube channel because I make a lot of money from it. Trust me, I don't make a lot of money from this at all. Okay, like if I quit my job, I would be destitute. So there's not a lot of there's no. It's not like some people have said things like, "Oh, just doing this for clicks," like and it's like, dude, you would laugh if you saw the amount of YouTube money I made like last month. Like it's nothing, you know. Like the best I ever had was like a couple months of hundreds of dollars. Oh my gosh, it's not much. So like obviously there's like that sparkle of a dream where you could like take off and make a career doing it, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm okay. I don't know. I don't need this to be my career or anything. So it's just been fun to have a voice with people like you, with people like Talkative Tri, and kind of start to affect the thing that we're interested in.
Absolutely. I think that one of my pivotal moments. I mean, I've only been a content creator since like February. I started my YouTube channel in January, but I didn't really know what I was going to make. And then
Yeah.
Path of Exile 2 was just taking over my life at that point, and so I just kind of went for it. And I'm very much of the mantra of do what you love. I made a conscious decision a long time ago to become an artist and make my living
Mhm.
doing something that I love to do. And I also love to play video games and I love to make videos. And so I thought to myself, why don't the other two things have more of like a precedence in my life? Why am I so focused on the visual art side of things, but I'm not focused on necessarily doing other things that I love to do? So
Yeah.
yeah, man,
And
it's
and I
been
have to
rad.
compliment you. I have to compliment you really quick because you are like a natural interviewer. Like, have you done that before?
Never. My first podcast or interview ever was 8 episodes ago.
Dude, yeah, I watched a handful of them. I think I watched like 3 of them. And I was like, he's really good at this. So I keep going, man. I think you are very good at it. I like that there's another type of interviewer besides Talkative Tri, you know? Yeah, so you're really good at it. You just are natural at doing it. And hope I didn't talk too much. I hope I didn't cut you off or whatever too much. I can do that sometimes, so apologize.
No, dude, it's been a wonderful chat, and thank you for the compliment. I've been absolutely thrilled at the reception to this podcast. I've had various comments being like, "This is my new like favorite podcast," or "I can't wait. I wish there was more episodes and stuff like that." And so, it's super nice to hear that like you enjoy the content as well, and I look forward to having you back on, maybe down the road sometime to talk more because
Yeah.
this has just been wonderful, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Definitely
Yeah, and
have to.
we got a shout out talking to Try again. Thank you for being the glue for this like wonderful community. For the viewers who don't know, like sort of
Anytime.
talking to Try, he put me on by being on my podcast a few episodes ago. So if you haven't heard that, go check that out. It was a great chat that we had. But he also sort of made this sort of smaller knit community of content creators that he introduced me to, and then from that I got introduced to wonderful people like Michael and some other folks as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really cool to see how community focused he has been with
Yeah.
people and creators of all different sizes. I just think it's so respectable and so awesome.
Yeah, dude, he's giving everyone a chance, is what it is. He's like giving smaller channels like a chance to like connect with people and stuff. And I just can't shout him out enough for that. Like seriously. And I mean, there was a period where he was doing podcasts and he was like mentioning me in like every single one of them. There was like 4 of them in a row. And I was like, dude, he's like just shouting me out in every single one of these. Like, and so he's just awesome, man. Like the people that give him crap, dude, you guys are just jerks. Like he's a nice dude, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
He's such
I
a
think
nice dude. Yeah.
he is, dude, like down to the core. I mean, I don't know him personally, but from all of his actions, they speak like volumes in terms of his
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
We could glaze Try for a whole podcast. We should, honestly, because he
Hey, what does
deserves it.
Kaltorok says? Kaltorok says glaze your friends, right? So
100%. Guys, normalize
yeah.
glazing your friends. Try, you
Normalize glazing
rock.
your friends. Yeah. Dude, you're a great interviewer. Try is cool and positive, and Kaltorok makes probably the best off meta builds right now, you know?
Yeah, I love
So,
Caltrack. We had a great chat too. All right, man.
yeah.
At this point in the podcast, I would love for you to just plug yourself. Where can we find you, and what are you working on?
Yeah, I'm off meta Michael. My YouTube channel has PoE 2 content, Diablo 2 content, and I do have an album called ARPG Prog Rock Volume 1. And then if you look at the links in the description on my YouTube channel, I do have another album, No Time for Summer Flings, which is instrumental music. So yeah, anyway, you could like play those while you blast some maps, you know, and I think you'd have fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I will leave a link to not only Michael's YouTube, but also links to his music in the video description. I highly recommend it. I checked it out before the podcast today, and I only listened to his old stuff, but his old stuff was awesome. So I need to go back now and throw on some of his newer stuff, especially
Yeah.
the ARPG stuff while I'm
Yeah.
gaming and stuff like that as well.
The new stuff is heavier, dude. It's not acoustic guitar. It's all like electric guitar, bass, drums. It's sick, right?
Dude, I'm stoked. I can't wait to listen to
Yeah.
that. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. Guys, I appreciate all the people hanging out. I appreciate the messages, appreciate the chatters, and we will see you in the next one. Have a good night.
Later.
All right, everybody. That wraps it up for this episode of the Passive Tree Podcast. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe for more PoE2 content. I have a bunch more episodes of the podcast lined up with some really great guests, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And until next time, happy blasting, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.